After years of helping online businesses make more money by advising them on their taxes and finances, I've now made it my mission to reach as many profitable online businesses as possible to help them save on their taxes and make more money. On my quest, I bring you proven and real profitable online business owners, and we dig into how they do it. Hello again. Thanks for being here on The Few, the Proud, the Profitable. This is the podcast where we talk exclusively to 6- and 7-figure online business owners. We know that in this space, there's a lot of people who exaggerate, who inflate their successes. So what we do here is we take the guesswork out of it for you. We only talk to people that we have personally vetted, that we know are legit and really making money online. So today we've got one of those, Michael McCormick. Thanks for being here, buddy.
What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
Doing good. Really excited to do this because, one, you're a lot of fun to talk to in general, but two, what you do is you succeed in a space where a lot of people fail. So first question, what we always ask everybody is just tell us who you are, what do you do? So yeah, just get into that.
Sure. My name is Mike McCormick. I am a consultant to the insurance industry. I own a number of businesses, all tailored and catered towards insurance agents and the insurance industry. Been in business with what we're doing right now for about 4 years at this point. We own the largest community on Facebook for the industry as well. We actually just hit the 29,000 member mark literally today, about a half hour.
Nice.
We dropped on here today. Which is pretty cool. And basically, I get paid to listen to an industry bitch and moan and create solutions for them. That is what I do in a nutshell. So,
but no, I mean, I think that's super cool because I don't know how many people I've known who have either gone in and become insurance agents, and you almost have to put air quotes on that because they did it for all of a month, or they've toyed around with the idea of it because on its face, not really knowing anything about it, it's really easy to think that it's easy. And you look at, oh man, if I sell a policy for this much, I get this much commission. And people think it's easy money, not realizing just how insanely competitive that space is. And how I'd say you probably have a better stat on this than I would, but my guess is it's got to be 80-90% of agents bomb out. It's got to be a crazy high percentage.
well, one of the conferences that we have a pretty big role in. Actually, I've got this hanging up here, and now this is going to seem like it was planned, but it definitely wasn't. One of the conferences that we participate in each and every year is a conference called 8% Nation, and 8% Nation is known as 8% Nation because 92% of insurance agents fail within their first 36 months. So
that's crazy.
You want to be part of the 8% Nation. You want to be part of that 8% that weather the storm and come out the other side with a successful business that can grow for the life of your career. But you're 100% correct. There's a lot of failure in the industry.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I just was thinking of this. I feel like a lot of what can attract people to the insurance business is the same thing that attracts people to online business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, just the same way, you scroll through your Facebook news feed and you get nothing but people saying, have a 7-figure agency within the next 12 hours. You get the same you get the exact same thing going on in the insurance world. Most insurance agents, myself included, when I was naive and new to all of it, you think to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna hang a fancy sign outside my door.
Mm-hmm.
It says insurance on it, and I'm gonna get loud about it on social media, and I'm gonna be rich. It's gonna be amazing. Right. And to your point, it is as competitive a space as there is. I mean, I don't know that there is another niche out there that is advertised nearly as heavily as insurance. I mean, you can't watch TV, radio, social media. You can't even go to your little kid's little league game without seeing a local agent plastered on the left field wall. It's tremendously competitive, yet there is this misconception that everybody who's in the field is Daddy Warbucks, and it's something that if you got the guts to jump into, you're going to come out the other side a winner. And generally speaking, most of the time, in most cases, you don't wind up a winner in this industry.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting too because of, I think it all goes to what people are portraying online, same way that you said, where people put this really beautiful face on. They think that it's going to be, they talk about how easy it is. It's almost the same way that because you're wanting to project success out there, the way that MLMs do, the way a lot of businesses, that the misconception becomes that this is going to be easy, that you're going to be able to look at how successful I am. You can be the same way too. So what do you think since there are so many parallels between insurance and online, I think in terms of barriers to success, competitiveness, and this is what I was going to say that I forgot, I just remembered, is that I think insurance is difficult too, and this again goes to online, being an internet marketer, is that if you want to be a CPA, for good or for bad, not like that's the hardest job in the world, there's specific things, stepping stones that you have to take. You go to school for accounting, you take these stupidly difficult tests, you get licensed. For insurance, you see this with financial advisors too. There are so many different pathways to get to that same career. Mm-hmm. And doesn't mean you're good at it, doesn't mean you're qualified, but I think because the barrier to entry at the very bottom level is pretty easy, it attracts so many people who aren't properly prepared to succeed in it.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. We can compare the digital space to the insurance space on that. The digital space, lowest common denominator, who are they advertising to? Literally anybody with a pulse that responds to an ad that they're seeing online.
Yeah.
I mean, jump the ship even further. Let's move over to LinkedIn, where you've got people who are proclaimed digital marketers who aren't even running ads to pick up their digital clients. They're spamming inboxes.
Yeah.
Now flip that on over to the insurance world. You've got the exact same thing going on, where you have just got a tremendous amount of recruiting going on. It doesn't matter what industry you came from. If you're willing to give insurance a shot, the industry is willing to give you a shot.
Sure.
And that's the God's honest truth. And you see that across a number of companies, both on the independent side and the captive side. And what winds up happening, and it definitely adds to the failure rate of the industry, is anyone that, like I said, wants to give it a try, has the opportunity to. And the reason that the industry, generally speaking, is okay with that is, like, let's say, for example, you wake up this morning and decide that you want to hop into the insurance industry. The insurance industry doesn't give two shits about whether or not you're going to succeed or not. All they care about is, wow, Micah's probably got 50 to 150, maybe even 200 people in his life that he can get to write a policy through our company real quick. If he crashes and burns after that, who cares? But let's snatch up everyone in Micah's family while he's got an interest in the industry. So it's very, very similar so far as the people at the top that are making money are making it seem like it's easy peasy lemon squeezy, not giving two flying whats as to whether or not the person that's actually putting their trust in them is going to actually become successful or not.
Well, it's funny. You spoke to this, that how heavily recruited it is. I can't think of the number of times when sometimes it's people who haven't had a ton of achievement in their lives. And the fact that they get recruited is almost enough. Like, I got recruited for this job. They want me to be a financial advisor. They want me to sell insurance. And
I got a funny personal story about that.
But it's just funny because it goes to, and I want to hear that story, but it goes to exactly what you said, that what financial advisors, New York Life, regular life insurance, they care about your close friends and family because they know they're going to try and support you. You're going to be spamming them trying to survive because you need to sell to them. You don't need to, but your survival is at least kept alive for a couple more months if you're doing that. And then you're locked into a whole life. Your mom is locked into this whole life policy for the next 30 years for a job that you were able to keep for 2 months.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunately rampant, but it's the nature of the beast here. I remember when I first actually moved in the industry, I was working in private banking at the time. When I started my career, I was in mortgages. When everything started to hit the proverbial fan back in 07, 08, I jumped into retail banking to get out of mortgage lending, not really knowing what direction my career was going to go in and all that. And I became a branch manager, and eventually I got recruited from one bank, out of one bank into another one to be part of their private banking. Long story short, I got a really bad boss that would give me agita every time I saw his car in my parking lot, and I decided to make my resume active on a couple of different sites. Well, let me tell you, there is no one more popular on a employment board than someone with a little bit of banking and mortgage background with some financial services licensing. Every single insurance company under the sun was obviously, banging on my door looking for me to come sell life insurance, until one day I got a very special request to not sell insurance, but to own and run my own agency, and how prestigious and luxurious and, all the great adjectives that go along with that. And it just hit me between the eyes, and it was like, wow. Because, you and I have known each other now for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I have always had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit and fire and energy and all that. And my entire career, when I was working on the corporate side of things, I was feeling stymied, and I was feeling repressed, and I was feeling like every time I wanted to bring my take on things or how I'd do something to the table, I was pretty much told to fall back in line and be a good soldier. If they wanted a general, they would have told me I was a general. And that was just the way it was. So when I got that invite to own my own agency, it was like, wow, I can be a business owner. It's not all that different than what I've been doing. I've been doing insurance on the retirement planning side for a bit right now. I've been working with the public now for a while. This really falls right in my wheelhouse. And then, you learn that A, it's not easy, and B, even though you're told you're a business owner, there's a whole bunch of restrictions that kind of defy the logic of what being a business owner really is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, because we've talked about the high failure rate and all, what do you think one of the bigger, and I know this is an oversimplification because y'all deal with, I'm sure in your consulting, you're dealing with 1,000 different factors of things you need to consider.
Sure.
But if you were to try to distill it down to what you think a big differentiating factor is, what would that be of the ones who succeed versus the ones who just bomb out?
I think
that could be too broad. I know.
It's broad for sure. I think one of the biggest problems that my industry faces is there's two models in the insurance industry. There's a captive model, which you have all the support in the world behind you. You got the big company name, you got the training, the trainers, the corporate backing, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got the independent world, where you're able to represent as many carriers as are willing to allow you to write insurance, and you don't really get as much support. You don't get any training, you don't get any backing, and each one of them comes with their own set of problems. On the captive side, generally speaking, most people fail because the captive companies set an unrealistic expectation of what you're going to need to do to be successful. So there is one of the larger companies out there in the insurance world on the P&C side that literally tells agents, you will get your contract if you perform at this level, not letting them know that if you perform at this level, no one in your house is going to eat. Yeah. So they set this expectation for the agent that if I just go out and do this tiny little bit of work, that the mothership is going to shine down on me, and like this is what is needed to be successful, when the reality is they set that bar so low so that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can clear it. And the reality is, just because you've cleared that, that hurdle doesn't mean that you're going to come anywhere close to even finishing the race, nevertheless winning the race.
Yeah.
So on the independent side, you've got a little bit of a different problem. On the independent side, you've got just a complete lack of training, resources, really good direction. So a lot of those guys ultimately fail because they open up an insurance agency, look in the mirror, and go, now what? And they don't have anyone that can answer that question for them.
Well, and that's interesting you bring that up, because anecdotally, it seemed to me that the guys who are captive agents have more disadvantages because you're stuck selling this. You don't have the price flexibility. You don't necessarily even have the same policy flexibility. Independent guys, in theory at least, have this inherent advantage over the captive guys, but I've seen more of the independent guys go belly up and faster than I've seen the captive agents, which to me has always been a little bit surprising given that inherent advantage and disadvantage.
Yeah, so my general rule of thumb to people when they're joining the industry is train captive, and then when you know what you're doing, go be
Yeah.
your own boss, because you're never your own boss when you're captive. When you're working for the companies that you see advertising with the big bucks on television, even when they tell you that you own an agency, at the end of the day, if you're not the one making all the decisions within the four walls of your business, are you really the owner? No, you're
Yeah.
not. So, generally speaking, what I recommend is that you start off on that captive world, take those real big names that are sinking those marketing dollars into making sure that their names are known, take all the training they're willing to give you, get the industry experience that you need, learn how to sell the policies and the products and services utilizing only one carrier, because no one really understands how the sausage is made quite like the sausage manufacturer, right? So
Right.
when you're working for the sausage manufacturer, you have a real good idea of everything that's taking place going on behind the scenes to make the sausage. Once you've mastered that, once you've got a good grip on that, at that point you can jump from the captive side over to the independent side, and you've got a good idea of what's going on behind the scenes at most of these companies, and the learning curve is just significantly less steep with that knowledge behind you. So, generally speaking, I feel as if the captive side of the market is a tremendous place to cut your teeth. It's also a tremendous place for people who think they want to be business owners but don't realize the true responsibility of being a business owner, that want that guidance, want that support, want that person in their corner. The independent side of the business is far superior once you've cut your teeth, if you aren't looking for the management and the compliance and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, if you're new to the industry and you open up your own independent agency without any kind of guidance, you're going to fall on your face because you don't know what you're doing.
Well, it makes perfect sense. It's almost like, not a perfect analogy, but it's almost like you got training wheels on at the beginning with the captive side, keeps you from falling too hard. And then once you actually really know what you're doing, then you can transition over. And what's interesting to me is on the captive side too, and this probably goes to what you're saying, is if you want to go truly entrepreneurial and once you know what you're doing to move over, is that I don't think some people realize that they have servicing agent contracts when they're certain captive brokers. They have it to where once they leave, they can't even sell their book to another agent within that firm. It's once they walk away, they're gone. So it's not even like you have a saleable asset the way you do with most businesses.
Yeah. And, funny enough, the recruiting process for most of the companies that have contracts set up like that just happen to do most of their fishing outside of the insurance industry pond. They're, getting people who are naive to the way the actual industry works to come join the industry, unbeknownst to them that they're getting, the world's shittiest contract. But that is, I guess that's part of the game. So,
yeah. All right, cool, man. All right, so second question is, what's the best thing about having a profitable online business? At the outset, we talked about how many people are pretenders and act like they're having one. But what's the best thing about actually having a truly profitable business?
The best part, I guess I should probably wait until I have a profitable business, right? The best part about having a profitable business is the freedom. Despite the fact that I work with insurance agents on a daily basis, despite the fact that I'm heavily involved with marketing and automation and a number of other things on a daily basis, it does not matter where I am, who I'm with. As long as I've got a piece of technology that can get me connected to the internet, I am able to perform at a high level for my for all my functions, and still maintain a nice healthy bank account. So those would probably be the main things. A lot of people think that it's all about the money, because that's the main pain point or selling point or whatever that you see on all the ads about grow an agency, whether it's a ad agency or an insurance agency. Grow an agency, you'll be rich. For me, and I think for most, it's really more about the freedom. Like, I have not missed a soccer game. I have not missed a dance recital. I have not missed a holiday. I have not missed anything for any of my kids
Mm-hmm.
literally ever. And that includes any kind of travel that I have. If I've got a trip planned and something pops up for one of my kids on this at the same time that I've got a trip planned, well, the only boss I consult is the man in the mirror, so I can move those trips around. So I
Yeah.
literally miss nothing, and the freedom above all is by far the best part about owning a profitable online business.
Yeah, I mean the money is the sexier thing to talk about, and that's why I think a lot of the ads are centered around this luxurious lifestyle.
Sure.
But I've known clients where they've gone away from, at least initially, and sometimes long term, they've gone away from more lucrative careers, but they were working 80, 100 something hours a week, and a lot of online entrepreneurs still work a lot, but even if it's the same number of hours, the ability to do it when they want to makes such a huge difference versus you go in, if you've got some really high powered job, you're there at 6 in the morning and you leave at 8 at night, and you're there the whole time and can't get away for a soccer game or dinner or whatever it is that's important to you.
So when I first graduated college, I jumped into the mortgage industry. I jumped into the mortgage industry because I was told that it was easy and it was big money. All the right reasons to join an industry, right? And I came out, and by 23 years old, I was making $250,000, and I was doing even better over the next couple of years. And when everything started hitting the proverbial fan back in '07, we were really nervous about all of it. My wife was like, maybe you should get out of the industry, maybe move into something a little bit more conservative, da, 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 da. I moved from, a nice six-figure position to the retail side of banking, where I went from making $250,000 or better each and every year, pretty much with my eyes closed, to not even, like, barely touching six figures. And from there, I got recruited into private banking, where I was going to be getting a little bit closer to the money that I used to earn. So without even thinking twice about it, I jumped at it. Wound up, like I mentioned a little bit earlier on this, with the worst boss I've ever had in my entire life, which was the biggest wake-up call I've ever had in my career. I realized that it did not matter the kind of money I was making, because I went into work anxious and angry every single day. So ultimately, that's what led to me putting my resume out there and me getting pulled into the insurance industry. It wasn't because I had this passion for insurance. It was because I needed to get the hell out of private banking. And actually, I needed to get the hell away from my boss. And I went into insurance. And when you are brand new in insurance, you are not just not making a lot of money. You are broke and spending money that you don't have. So you're opening up an agency. What's funding the payroll? Your savings. What's funding the marketing? Your savings. What's funding the lights? What's funding the four walls around you? Your savings. And oh, by the way, all that business that you're writing right now, you've also got to give the commissions back out to your team. The profitability is very, very low early on in a scratch insurance agency. So my career, I actually went from making nice money to running away from shitty situations as my income went down. Yeah. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I was like, you know what, F it. I am going to follow my passion. I'm going to follow what I love doing, and I'm going to just see what it turns into, that my career blossomed into what it's blossomed into today. And knock on wood, that's not even wood, but knock on wood, I made the right decision, and I'm able to carry this for the next 40 years. So far, the first 4 years have been a real blessing. But
well, I had a similar experience because I worked in corporate America, had an okay boss, then got promoted to a different position and department, and just ended up in this absolutely miserable situation. It was, I think, I applied to jobs because I'm like, I get same thing as you. I gotta get away from this, and I applied to jobs in I think like 80 different countries. I was so miserable that I thought I needed to leave not only this job, not only the county, not only this. I needed to get out of the country to go somewhere else. And then that was really what, same as you, what pushed me over the edge. I was making okay money, but I was like, this is miserable. I'm not doing this again. And I don't care if I make 20 grand a year. I don't care if I make just enough to subsist off ramen. The having the flexibility to not have some douchebag giving me sleepless nights, stress, heart palpitations, not giving me all this. I'm not going to have someone else have my future in their very mercurial and, you know, in their hands when they can be so easily changeable.
Dude, with a six-figure salary at my back, a baby, a wife, and another baby on the way. This is going back to 2010 or 11. No, I'm sorry, 13. With a wife, a kid, another baby on the way, and six-figure money, John Zaya was big enough reason for me to be like, I'm out. I don't care what happens. I'll figure it out. My family, they're going to be pissed. My bank account is definitely going to be pissed. But I'm going to figure it out because I'm not coming to work every single day and getting that feeling in my stomach every time I see his car in the parking lot, or, you know, wanting to go home every time the phone rings and I see it's his number. Yeah. So it just wasn't, it's just money's not enough. And no. Almost every successful online entrepreneur that I'm personally friends with, that I've got in my circle, 9 out of 10 of them, if not 99 out of 100 of them, will tell you the exact same thing.
Oh yeah, you can't put a price on quality of life, and if what you're looking for is money, there have been different studies where and the figure seems to change, but it's like, because they don't really take cost of living into account of the area you live in. But you'll hear the number that can be like $70,000, $80,000, where once you're getting there and reach that, you don't worry about the necessities as much. So there's this big marginal utility you get from getting that money. But once you get to that point, and maybe a little higher if you live in a higher cost of living area, it plateaus so hard to where you're going to get bored. That money that you're getting isn't going to be giving you any real additional happiness, and because it's just your new normal. So if that's all you're after, you're really going to be in for a rude awakening once you hit that.
Dude, I'm not a car guy. I'm not a gadget guy. I'm not a jewelry guy. I'm like, I don't even know where this shirt's from. This might even be a $12 shirt. There's a good chance that it is. Like, it's like nothing that I have achieved has changed my lifestyle or changed my happiness quotient, if that's even really a thing at all.
Yeah. So. Well, and it's always funny that you say it because, yeah, it's at all, because you get whatever you get becomes the new normal. And this goes to, I'm not one of these manifesting people or these mindset coaches to where this is what you focus on, but I can point to any sort of professional accolade I've gotten. I want to get to this much in billings, this much in profitability. I want to win this award. If I can get, I like being cited in different magazines. If I can get cited in this publication, whatever it is, we've done this stuff and it's like, man, that's awesome. Can't believe we did that. Then it's like the next day, it's like, okay, what next?
Yep.
It's never sustainable.
Well, you know, it's funny in my community that my business partner and I host. I actually just had a post about this not even a couple weeks ago, where, you know, over the last couple of call it 2.5 years or so, we've been pretty fortunate to be invited to speak on stage with some people far more well known than us, far more popular than us, far more successful than us. You know, it was actually this time last year we shared a stage with Grant Cardone. Back in January, Gary Vee invited us to speak at his event down in Miami. Yeah. We just shared a stage with Jeffrey Gitomer out in Colorado. Got an event next summer that we were just invited to speak at, to share the stage with the Wolf of Wall Street. And, you know, like, none of these opportunities have been anything more than just a day of excitement. You know what I mean? Like, like I don't think about it before, and I don't think about it after. Like, I think about it while it's going on. Like, holy shit, this is a really cool. You know, this is a really cool day. Like, you know, like the stage that I spoke on at 11 o'clock. You know, one of the greatest sales trainers of our generation is, you know, going to be up there at 4 o'clock. That's pretty cool. But 99 out of 100 cool things that we got going on in our world, we're not even thinking twice about it, except for the exact moment that it's happening. So, yeah. the same goes for all the material stuff as well. So, you know,
Hmm.
I don't know anyone who went out and spent, and maybe it's just because it's my circle or whatever, but I don't know anyone who went out and spent six figures plus on a car that's still riding that high 18 months later. That still gets
Yeah.
in that car
No,
every morning like, oh, I'm in such a great mood because I got this awesome car. No, like that high ran out a
no,
long time ago.
I'd be surprised if it lasted 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
So
right. So cool. And this goes to a little bit of what we were talking about before, but third question that we usually ask people is one of the things that we hear can be a real challenge for online business owners. What we deal with a lot with our clients is cash flow. So when we were talking earlier, we talked about how you've got a very successful business now. You started off at the one bookend with your job of making a bunch of money, and then you had the struggles of getting started. So at different stages with the business, how have you managed that?
well, we've been very fortunate to have jumped into a niche that was A, blue ocean, and B, didn't really require a lot of overhead
Yeah.
to get up off the ground. So between insurance and digital marketing being the two main areas that that we help people, uh, digital marketing, there's literally no overhead, and insurance, if you are willing to operate from a home office or from an inexpensive office and run lean and mean, again, you don't really need all that much to get things off the ground. If I had to open up a physical, tangible, walk in the door business, I think I would have a very different story to share than the one that I'm able to share today. My business partner and I, we joke around all the time about how, like, if people were able to walk into our store like it was like a real storefront, like behind the counter, everything would be on fire. Like everything would just be on fire. And everyone would be like, why is everything on fire? Because that's how our business operates, but you just don't see it because we're an
Yeah.
online business. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think, we were very fortunate to be blue ocean at a time where there was a real need in our niche. I don't think that it could be duplicated again today by us or by anybody. But I think the main reason that we were able to get off to such a white hot start was because of those two factors: no inventory, and it was blue ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you've grown, I don't know what the staff situation looks like, but you have to have had more expenses coming in, and you've got good margin. But how have you accounted for that? Because as you're scaling, you've obviously just got more stuff you're still having to, even
It,
if you've got amazing margins planned for at least.
it's probably one of our, if not currently still our biggest weakness, is that we have run ridiculously lean. And I used to say lean and mean, but we're actually at a point right now where I'm starting to regret not having it reinvested into the business more a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. I mean, at this point, we've got 4 people that work for us, and we've got a total of 6 businesses under our
Right.
umbrella.
That's
Yeah,
pretty lean.
yeah. So and we've got 6 businesses, and as of right now, one is a 7-figure business and 3 of them are 6-figure businesses. So we have been running extremely lean and mean. We're at a point right now where we are bringing people on, and we understand that, but yeah, I mean, we definitely fell on our face with that, and it's something that we are evolving towards solving and evolving towards getting past.
Well, yeah, I mean, falling on your face is way too harsh because that indicates some kind of failure. Because especially for an online type, or especially for a growing business, I should say, I don't know that you ever time any sort of reinvestment is never perfect timing, let alone staff, because those are things where they're, for accounting, they talk about them being step variable costs, where it's like you have this, yeah, the need for them increases gradually over time, but when you actually pick up the cost is much more jarring. So matching that demand to when you actually have to pay for the people is really tough, to where I don't know any business that does it perfectly. I think you're either sort of chasing your tail to where you're like, man, I really need more help, should have done this earlier. Or you've got staff members that if they're not twiddling their thumbs, they're definitely not being utilized the way that they will hopefully be in 6 to 12 months.
Well, that's our biggest problem is when we bring someone on, the conversation that we always have is, either how long until they are producing legitimate revenue, or if they're not producing revenue at all, the conversation always turns to, well, do we really need them? Well, right. Yes, we do really need them, because there are certain things that we shouldn't be getting tied down with, and we are. But yeah, it's definitely tough. But the one thing that's always helped us, as we've started to grow, and we're by no stretch a huge organization, but the fact that we've always been very cash heavy has made hiring, more of an experiment that we can stomach when
right.
if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, when you got that buffer, it's a lot easier to deal with the failures if they do pop up versus if you got a shoestring budget, everything has to go right.
Oh, dude, if I was running a local grocery store and it was a matter of bringing on that next person to make sure that the shelves were stocked, and or that we had enough people on register to handle the crowd in the store or whatever, dude, I'd be flying by the seat of my pants. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. Well, I know we're running a little bit short on time. I don't want to take up too much of your day. So 4th question, this is the bigger one usually that we ask people, is in a couple minutes, give us a tip that you think that every online business owner should know.
You know what? I don't even remember. I know you prepped me with this question ahead of time, and I don't even remember what answer I gave for this one. I'm going to totally switch gears. I'm going to throw it out the window. I can't stress enough the importance of having an audience. An actively engaged and interested audience on social media. So, you go back to the 80s and 90s, and if you were a part of something, you were a part of a club or an organization, or you followed someone or whatever, you might be part of their fan club, right? You get a letter from them every once in a while. You might get a tchotchke or two from them over the course of a year. You might be kept abreast of a new book they've got coming out, or a new program, the new CD collection you could order from them. And then that kind of evolved into the email list in the 90s and early 2000s or whatever. I look at audience management or audience building today on social media, whether it be owning a online community or an online forum or an online group or whatever. I look at that as being, for a small business owner in particular, ridiculously integral to being able to really grow and scale. And the reason I believe that is this. So we were relatively blue ocean with pretty much everything that we've started. Almost everything that we've started, we've had competitors pop up very, very quickly. I'm talking like with some businesses that we've started, within like 2 or 3 weeks, there have been pop-up businesses trying to compete with ours. Others call it within 3 to 6 months or whatever. And they all fall flat on their face. And some of them are actually decent businesses from what I've been able to put together. They all fall flat on their face because none of them give any kind of real legitimate credence to the need of having a large amount of people out there that know, like, and trust you, a large amount of people out there that are willing to refer you, a large amount of people out there that when your name gets brought up or you're not, are going to sing your praises and back you up. So, I look at one of the main drivers of our success, and it's actually our number one marketing objective, our number one marketing goal above growing any of our companies. Our number one marketing objective is grow the audience, grow the audience, grow the audience. Let more people in. I don't care who buys today. Let them get to know us. And once they get to know us, that know, like, and trust factor takes over and makes sales easy. Actually, to the point where part of why we've been able to run so lean and mean, like I mentioned, I've got a team of 4 people. We don't even have a salesperson. If you come to me and say, hey, I just wanted to know if, you could tell me a little bit about blah, blah, blah. My answer to you is, if you've got to come to me and ask questions, then you don't know enough about me or my services yet. Come back to me when you're ready to buy.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate to be in that position because I've got an audience right now that if my marketing program gets brought up, hey, has anyone tried CAC? Does it really generate leads? I don't got to say dickety do because I got 47 people saying, buy it, dummy, buy it.
Yeah.
So it's, that audience is so powerful.
So certain people just ignore that. They don't understand the value of an audience, so they don't even try. There are tons of people, especially online, where they're trying to build an audience and failing miserably at it. So what do you think? And again, this is one of these questions that can be so broad and general that it's probably a bad question, but what do you think part of the secret sauce in that is? What do you think at least one of the differentiating factors has been for y'all that you've been able to do it so successfully?
Oh, it's simple. It's black and white. And anyone who doesn't know the answer to this doesn't know because they're not doing it. You have to give a shit about the people you're trying to help.
Yeah.
It can't be about you. It can't be about what you want. It can't be about what you're trying to sell. You have to genuinely care for your audience. You have to genuinely want to solve their problems. You have to genuinely give a shit when they come to you with a problem. I personally, like I mentioned a little bit earlier on this podcast, I was fortunate to be able to spend a little bit of time with Gary Vee down in Miami. And prior to him inviting us down to his conference, I didn't really follow him all that much. It was the type of thing where if one of his videos went by on my news feed and it had a lot of traction on it, I might look at it, but he's just so everywhere that I'm not stopping to watch Gary Vee again. I got to get some work done.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he's a big proponent of, and that I've always been a big proponent of, unbeknownst that we had a similar ideology on this, is the need to care. Like, if you don't care, especially in the transparent world that we're in right now, it's going to come out. Like, you can't pretend to care anymore. You can't. You're like, pretty much every conversation that you're having with someone online is documented. If you're a dick to someone, it's going to be shared in every corner of the internet within seconds. You can't fake caring in today's world. And I think that is the biggest problem. I think most people that feel as if, I'm going to start a group or I'm going to build an audience or whatever, you see it over and over and over again. I can't speak to your world. I know you're kind of a little bit in the digital world and you're in the accounting world and all that. But how many times have you just been, yoink, you're in this group now?
Right.
Okay, I guess I'm here now. Let me look around now that I've just been parachuted into this, dimension and see what's going on in here. Somebody else selling me their shit. Like, we lead with value and what our audience wants and needs above and beyond everything else. Do we have offers out there? Of course we do. But we didn't even actually start putting offers out to our audience until we were a solid 4 or 5 months in of just giving them value day in, day out, day in, day out. So.
Yeah. And I think that's where people will get it backwards a little bit because, you start a group, you start a page, you start something. Your end goal, and we're not doing this for purely altruistic reasons.
Of course.
Ultimately, we're trying to make money. But I think there's almost either they don't have enough confidence in what they're able to do on a paid offer, where they feel like, if I give value, that's just cannibalizing what I want to sell them later, and they don't have enough of a positive ego in what they can provide, that if what you're giving on the front end is going to hurt your paid offer, you might not need to have a paid offer if it's that shallow. But I think people that they don't necessarily lead with the value for different reasons. But like you said, it's a backwards way of doing it, to where it's starting with, I'm going to do this group for me, and I might give them some really piddly breadcrumbs to make it seem like I'm giving value, but it's transparent that that's what you're doing.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
All right. Sweet, man. So last question. It's either one of two things. It's, what's the craziest tactic you've seen to sell something online, or what's the craziest thing you've seen sold online?
The craziest tactic I've seen to sell anything online? I've had some pretty shady stuff done to me by competitors to try and sell their stuff.
No, go with that.
So, so we actually have had some people that took a video that we had shot at one point. So at one point, this is going back a number of years. A couple of me, my business partner, and an old business partner, we were on a Google Hangout. And unbeknownst to us, the Google Hangout was publishing live to YouTube, and we thought we were just having a private conversation. And we talked about a number of different things on that thing. We talked about smoking weed. We talked about one of our businesses that was going through a pretty dramatic beatdown at that point. We talked about a couple of other things. Nothing particularly overly
Sorted.
overly scandalous. But
Yeah.
it was dudes talking like dudes.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we didn't realize that this was recording and publishing. We thought it was just like kind of like what you and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
And one of our competitors caught the video, chopped it up to make it look way worse than it actually was, republished it, and anytime our name got brought up anywhere, he would post a link to that video with don't work with those guys. We'll take care of you. Here's our link type of thing.
Yeah.
So that is probably the craziest thing that we've ever dealt with as far as competition and the way they tried to sell stuff online. I really like a lot of the stuff that the Harmon brothers do. A lot of the ads that they get behind, like the Squatty Potty, and the ads that are what's the name of that other one? The Purple Mattress did one with Harmon brothers. I really like their stuff.
They're sharp. Very sharp.
They're very sharp. They go places with their marketing and advertising that most other marketers wouldn't, just because they're talking about topics and using language that most wouldn't think would be okay with the general public. But I found that the general public loves when you behave just like them. So I have an appreciation for what the Harmon brothers do on the marketing front.
Well, it's unusual and it's also authentic, which goes to what you were saying earlier. Is I feel like so much advertising, especially if you go to like local low grade advertising, is it's almost a meme. It's just this like corny, canned, the most generic and supposedly generally appealing thing you could possibly publish, but because of that, it doesn't really have a true appeal to anybody at all.
Yeah. And it's funny because one of the reasons that we've been as successful as we've been on our front is because 99.9% of the marketing that's being done by the insurance companies, by the carriers in my industry, is the exact same thing. It's plain Jane, it's generic, it's boring. There's no call to action, there's no real offer. It's speaking to literally anybody and everybody, which means nobody's listening. And the reason that we've been, fortunate to have the success that we have is because we've been outside the box. We're crazy. We're fun. We're willing to, put some offers out there that maybe others won't. And that's the reason why our clients have been as successful as they've been, and why ultimately we've gotten the praise that we've gotten from, within the industry. So I do believe that there is a lot to be said for that generic vanilla marketing that goes absolutely nowhere. And, I encourage these big companies to continue to do that, because it's going to continue to give me a nice lucrative career.
Well, I think about, and I'm sure these other agencies do it, but I think about State Farm, I think because of the red, to where when you see a State Farm billboard, the agent who's there is it's just a head. They could swap. It is so generic and interchangeable that I don't even remember who the agent is usually, because they just put a new guy in there right there, make sure that they're wearing a red tie, or if it's a girl, she's wearing a red top or sweater or something. And then it's like, oh, you're not an agent anymore? Let me just throw this other guy exactly in your same spot, to where it's so generic and interchangeable. I don't see how the agents are fooled into thinking it's building them brand value.
Well, and that's all part of the Kool-Aid culture that I'm working so hard to knock down. So, the whole reason that we even came into existence was because when we were first starting to learn digital marketing ourselves, every single major carrier out there had their own group, but there was no place online where the entire industry was coming together.
Mm-hmm.
So, when my business partner and I, we both worked for different carriers and we both lived in different parts of the country, when we were first starting to get to know each other, it was, hey, how are we both in the same industry, but I've never heard of ABC company, and you're using XYZ company that's so much better than anything I've ever heard of. So we decided when we first started our group Insurance Soup to knock down those walls. That way, no matter what corner of the country you're hiding in, no matter what carrier you represent, no matter what level of experience you have, we can all come together and talk about what's good, bad, ugly, and indifferent in the industry. But getting back to your point about the billboards, when we get off this call, I'll forward you over a billboard that I have that is like right on point with what you just mentioned. Only the kicker of it, and I spent $3,000 for the pleasure of having this glorious billboard. Not only did it feature this face, and if you're going to use a face, like I could have gave you a prettier face because it doesn't matter what face is on it, but not only did they use this face, dude, no joke, they put like it could have been in the middle of the Amazon with the amount of like tree growth that was growing over like the front of the billboard, unless you were like within 8 feet of it. I actually had to call the billboard company and say, can you get someone out there to trim some of that brush back?
Yeah.
And even still, even with my genius plan of cutting some of the brush back, I didn't get a single phone call on the billboard. But go figure.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. All right, buddy. It's been awesome talking to you. Really enjoyed having you on here.
Man. Good catching up.
Yeah, this is great. So for anyone who is listening to this, anyone who's looking to reach out, what's your best method of contact?
Yeah, so if you are an insurance agent or a team member of an insurance agency, or if you are an innovator in the insurance world that may be looking to get a product to market or anything like that, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Insurance Soup is the name of the group. You can find me. My name is Mike McCormick. Not hard to find. And looking forward to any new relationships that come out of this. So.
Sweet, man. We'll put those links in the description. And yeah, to everyone watching, thanks for being here again on The Few, the Proud, the Profitable, where we only talk to legit online businesses. Make sure to review this podcast, subscribe to it, and we'll catch y'all next time with more advice.